Well, hello folks and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to cover how to add records. I'll give you a quick demonstration here. So you'll be able to fill out a form like this, hit add, and you can see we've got a little spinner here as it's fetching data. And then at the top, it says the record was successfully added. And then this thing updates all automatically. The spinner, by the way, was just me simulating a slow server. I'll show you how to do that. I'm also going to show you how to have really nice validation errors. So, for example, something that looks like this. See how we've got these beautiful validation errors? And I'm also going to give you some interesting information about security and how to prevent things like cross-site forgery requests and all of that. This is one of these videos that could have been recorded in a few minutes, but I really want you to know this stuff, you know? So please hang with me for this video. It gets a whole lot easier once we get these fundamentals nailed. All right, here we go. So let's start this one by opening up modules, books, views, and it's demo.php. Now let's go underneath this H2 here that says, what would you like to read? And we're going to build a form. Now, by the way, Trongate does have a form helper class, and we've got things like form input here, you know, we've got things like form open. It's all here. And you can use this stuff if you want. You can indeed. But I'm not going to do that here. I just think that for this particular tutorial, it might be more helpful if you can just see the HTML, okay? So just an ordinary form open tag. There it is. Now, you don't need to add in action equals or method equals post or any of that nonsense. We're going to keep this really simple. And we'll just have it like this, okay? All right, we're going to have 3 divs. There we go. And in the first div, we're going to have a little form input field. It's going to have a name equal to book underscore title. We're going to have a placeholder. Placeholder is going to say, enter book title here, like that, okay? The second div is going to have a little input. The name is going to say author, and the placeholder is going to say enter author name here. And the third div is going to have a button. Now the button's going to have a type of submit, that's important. Then we're just going to say add. Okay, so that's us. Let's save and refresh. And there you go. Now we can make this look a little bit better. Let's go down here where the styling action is. And I'm going to say form. Display is flex. Flex direction is row. I'm going to save, refresh. And there's what we get. Now we can do a bit better than this. In fact, to show you what's going on, let me just say form. Direct descendant divs have a border of 1 pix red solid. Okay, so this is what we've got. Now, let's say align items is center. That's vertical alignment. And let's say justify content space between. Okay, cool. So that's spreading out those 3 divs, and I hope you can handle that, okay? Now, with the first div and the second div, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just say nth child 1, and then a little comma, and then nth child 2. So for those first divs, I'll get rid of this border. I'm going to say flex grow 1 and save, and then refresh, and there you go. So that flex grow is basically going to say, hey CSS, could you make these 2 as big as you can get away with. That's what we're doing there, okay? All right. Now the button looks a little bit sloppy. So let's just say for our button here, right around here, I'll just say margin top 0 and save and refresh. Okay, pretty cool. Now one more thing. For the second div here, I'm just going to say margin 0, 3 pixels. And it just gives a tiny little bit of space, you know. The 0 refers to top and bottom, the 3 is left and right. So it's just a little bit of spacing, no big deal. Okay, so hopefully you've got a nice looking form. Now we're going to bring it to life. We're going to make it so that this form is going to send a post request. To do that, we're going to add on an attribute of mx-post. And where are we going to go? Well, if you look inside the books controller, you'll see that we've already got a method here called submit. So we're going to use this. And in fact, just to make life easy, I'm just going to echo hello, it works, and then a die statement. We'll deal with the validation and all of that in just a minute, but I want to keep this really, really simple, okay? So, back over here, it's going to be MX post, and where are we going? It's books/submit. Okay, now I want the output that comes from this, in other words, our little message here, to go on our page. And what I'm building up to is a little statement that says the record was successfully added, something like that, you know. So underneath the title here, let's have a div with an ID of page top, but we'll just keep it empty. But here in the form, we're going to say mx-target equals, and then a little hash symbol, page-top. So what that means is we're going to do a request to this endpoint, and then whatever that endpoint gives us back, it's going to go into this div here. So let's save, refresh, and we can just click add. And if you look at the top here, there it is, and it just says, hello, it works. Now, we can do even better than that. How about a little indicator? I'll show you what I mean. So, if we go, let's say, underneath this, and we make a div with a class of spinner, save, refresh, do you see how we've got a little spinner here? It's kind of cool. So, let's have a little spinner. And the idea is that this spinner is going to appear when we submit the request. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Now, the way that we do this is we're going to add on a class. Now, remember, you can stack classes like this. It's perfectly normal, right? So we're adding on a class of MX indicator. Okay. Now, by the way, if we refresh, you'll see that the spinner disappears. And the idea is that when we post this and we are waiting on a response from the API endpoint, let's have the little spinner appear. So we're going to say mx-indicator equals, and we'll say dot spinner. So it's the element with a class of spinner. Okay. Now, if we run that right now, it's going to be so fast you'll not even see it. So let's go back over to books, and we'll go to the submit endpoint. And just for the moment, let's just say sleep 3 for a 3-second delay, right? Just so you can see this working. So save, we're going to refresh, and then click add. There's the spinner. It's going to wait 3 seconds. Boom, and hello, it works up the top. So now what I'm going to do I'll take the sleep out, it has served its purpose. But I want to introduce you to a little function that comes with the Trongate framework. It's called from Trongate MX. And what this does is it can evaluate an HTTP request and it can figure out if it's just a normal request or has the request been made by Trongate MX. So we could say is from MX equals from Trongate MX, and we can var dump is from MX with a die statement. So if I just save that and then click add, do you see how up the top it says true? And funnily enough, if we go to books/submit, now it says false. So the framework can differentiate between an ordinary request and one that comes from Trongate MX. Remember, this is just going to return true or false. So here's what we're going to do. We can keep in the security, by the way. In JavaScript, did you know that session and cookie data are automatically included in the request headers? This is a default behavior of JavaScript. So we do have the ability with Trongate MX to add things onto the header. We've got a token feature as well that we can use. It's all there. But the truth is that because JavaScript has this default behavior, it means that our security is still going to work and everything's going to be fine. The only thing is, though, we don't have this submit equals submit shenanigans. So let's do a little tweak here. Your code may look slightly different. Maybe you don't need to do this, but if you've got anything that looks like this, I'm going to do an or statement here. So if submit is equivalent to submit, or, well, let's do the from Trongate thing. Now you can do this. You can say from Trongate MX is equivalent to true. That should probably be 3 equals here. Okay. So I'm saying if the submit thing equals submit, that's when we're doing a normal submit, or if it's from Trongate MX, well, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to just echo rock the validation and a die statement. Okay. So back here, refresh, click. You can see that it says rock the validation. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because it's loading up our validation class. Your syntax might look slightly different. You can actually do this. Believe it or not, we've changed the way the syntax works here. Doesn't matter though. But this is going to run our validation helper and it's going to return true or false. If I var dump result with a die statement, you're probably thinking we're going to get true or false, right? But check this out. It takes us to the home page, or maybe it does something different for you, some kind of error. Now what's happening there is actually a very cool part of the Trongate framework. Because this validation class has got built-in cross-site forgery request protection. It all happens automatically. So if we go back to this demo thing here, where we've got the closing form tag, let's take this out. And instead, we're going to echo with PHP short tags, form close like this, okay? Now what that's going to do is it's going to give us this closing form tag, which is nice. But it's also going to generate a token. If I just inspect here, I'll show you. So as you see on the left how we've got this token here, it's a hidden token. And it says CSRF token. So that's going to enable us to get past Trongate's inbuilt cross-site forgery request protection just by adding this, okay? So now that we've done that, if we var dump result, we should get true or false. And there it is, it says false. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Okay, so let's deal with validation errors. Now, if the result is false, now that would be this part here. And again, your code may be slightly different. Remember, frameworks do change sometimes. But if we have an error, I'm going to say if from Trongate MX is true, meaning the request came in from Trongate MX. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo validation errors and then 400 and then a die statement. Now, validation errors comes as part of the validation class. And when you put in a number here, that number signifies the HTTP response code that we're going to have. We could have said 422 or some other number, that's up to you. But 400's fine for me. So what I'm saying is, look, this is an error. I want a 400 response. And by the way, it's also going to give me a JSON representation of the errors. So if we save this and submit, well, it looks like nothing much has happened. However, if we go to our form and we're going to add in a class of highlight -errors, that's all we're going to do. Just save, refresh. Now, if you hit submit, you get that fabulous validation errors. By the way, if that button being up there annoys you, I've just noticed that. So if that was annoying you, you would say align items flex end here. Here we go. Okay. And it's very cool because it'll do validation errors on the appropriate fields. And it's really nice. And all you have to do is add in a class of highlight errors. The framework figures everything out. Okay, so now we know how to deal with validation errors. But what about when things go well? Well, let's review our submit method here. And again, yours could be slightly different. We're not going to worry about that too much. But basically, if the validation is successful, it means that the result is going to be equivalent to true. You might have 3 equal symbols here. Okay? Now, if that's the case, it's going to fetch the data from post, and then it's going to hopefully insert the record. Now, thereafter, it normally redirects to another page. But remember, we have a single page app. So once again, let's go right here. And we're going to say if from Trongate MX is equivalent to true. By the way, if your code's slightly different, good. Treat this as an exercise in handling slightly different code. It's fine. Relax. We're just going to say a little echo statement. We'll have a paragraph style. Let's say color is green. And let's also add in, well, we can have a class of text center. Something like that. So we're going to have a paragraph with a nice little message. And what's the nice message? Well, it's going to be this flash message thing here. So let's chuck that in. And then we'll have a die statement. Now, that's going to render this little nice paragraph thing. And it's going to send out an HTTP response code of 200. That's a default behavior of PHP. If you want to be really proper though, you can say HTTP response code 200. You don't need to, but it's just if you're feeling kind of proper. So let's save that. And now I'm going to add a book here. So let me go with Treasure Island. That would be Robert Louis Stevenson. I'm going to click add. Now look at the top. It says the record was successfully added. Pretty cool. Now, if we refresh the page, you'll see that that record has indeed been added. But wouldn't it be nice if this was updated automatically? Well, here's how you do that. We're going to go back to the form here, and we're going to add one more MX attribute. I'm going to say MX on success equals. And when everything is successful, we're going to refresh this result div here. Okay, remember this is the result div, and it's the one that fetches the list of books. Okay, so MX on success, we're going to refresh the result div. So let's save that, and we'll chuck in another book here. So the story of my success, it has to be me surely. And then I'm going to click add. And won't you believe it? This has just updated. And you can see it says record was successfully created as well. Not too bad. So well done. And I'll see you in the next one.